So what I'll do is I'll quickly get started with a round of introductions. I'll go last. Anuj, let's start with you.
Yes, this is Anuj Kumar. I'm one of the co-founders of Affle, which is a company which is largely into mobile advertising and data-driven solutions for mobile. And I think we've been an entrepreneur for over 15 years. And, as a company started in India, we are happy that we even live in India and are a public company now. So looking forward to sharing on the SMB side and what we can do as an industry to drive that forward and build a much greater global presence for Indian SMBs.
Thanks, Anuj. And Pranav, why don't you go next, please?
Thanks, Shayak. Hi, everyone. I'm Pranav. I look after MSME and seller experience at Amazon. And our mission is to ensure and enable anybody anywhere in India to be able to get started and leverage digital technology, e-commerce, and grow their business. So formerly, I've been an entrepreneur, so I've been on the other side, seeing the pain points, and it's great to be here to sort of help MSMEs grow and support them in their journey. Thank you.
Thanks, Pranav. Rajendran, maybe you can introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I am Rajendran. I have been with Zoho from its founding days in 96, 97. And at Zoho, the primary role that I do is to evangelize the technology platform. Our sweet spot is the small and medium-sized companies, almost 350,000 of them around the world, who want to bootstrap and really frog jump over the other competition by being digital at its core. And that'll be the role I'll be playing.
Thanks, Rajendran. I'll quickly give an intro to me. I'm ex-Indian Navy. I retired as Lieutenant Commander back in 2012. Used to be a nuclear biological chemical warfare specialist and a helicopter operator. And later on, I ran some small businesses, went on to do my MBA, and then I was heading cross-border e-commerce for Rocket. Later on, I started Eunimart, and like Rajendran and the others on this panel, I'm very acutely involved with the small and medium businesses, helping enable them to sell globally. So with that, we get started on today's panel. My first question to all the panelists, one by one, and you can go in any sequence you want, is what is a SME in your definition when you are helping SMEs, okay, from your perspective?
Okay. Which includes sellers, which includes delivery partners or logistic partners, neighborhood stores, enterprises, developers, content creators, authors across these different areas. And overall, if I look at the spectrum today, more than 10 lakh MSMEs work with Amazon in India in some form or the other. And these MSMEs in turn also provide livelihoods to lakhs of people who work with them. How we look at MSMEs when we think about supporting and enabling them. I have a couple of examples that I can also share, but I'll let the panel speak.
What you hear that we'll come to that. Rajendran, maybe if you can describe what MSME or SME is in your definition.
Not looking at it as definitions, I completely agree with what Pranav said. It's more a mindset than anything else. It is not a set of checkboxes that I can use to decide whether it is MSME or not, but it is more of a mindset. What does the mindset comprise? Probably cost conscious. They will want to think twice every time before deciding something for themselves and also for their customers. They are always cost conscious. They are also talent strapped because they can't really have the clout of going out to the top tier colleges and doing a day zero or day one recruitment. They are strapped there. And they always look for that extra squeeze on any lemon they have in their hand. Can I take, they would love to have products that they can do multiple things with, than go for multiple products that for each of their requirements. MS Excel is their most favorite product, because with that they get to do magic. So it's more a mindset. It is the middle class mindset of aspiring big, but knowing that they are grounded in day to day horrors of tough living. So that's the way I see it.
That's an awesome definition. Anuj, maybe you can go explain SME in your definition.
So I think starting point of SME, I rely on the way it's actually defined by the Indian government, which is largely around companies which have up to a 50 crore investment and up to a 250 crore revenue. And I think in the India context, like in terms of our business, the way I see it is that while these definitions are good because it's important to be on a similar page in terms of what you're calling out as an MSME, but I think the way I see it is that it's also like given in the recent past, fundraising has kind of come easier and there is a lot of access to that. So personally, between the two definition points, I count the revenue as the key definition point, that companies which are still under 250 crores as revenue, which largely is most of Indian enterprises, and whatever kind of data points we look at today, the SME audiences are the large contributors of the Indian economy, over 40% of exports, 40% of services sector. So clearly, even with that definition, which is not that large, I think we've got a large part of the country's entrepreneurs covered. And clearly, the way the country is shining, I think there is a long way to go in terms of this entrepreneurial ecosystem and how it can drive the industry forward and drive the country forward overall.
Thanks a lot, Anuj. And I think I agree with all of you summarizing the way I look at SMEs. Essentially, it's a framework that covers three things: people, process, and money. And most definitely, revenue comes first. So typically, the way we look at it is anybody with that between that 1 to 10 crore, that kind of defines as a SME. Of course, you can go a little higher as well. And these are the people who typically are smaller teams, like Rajendran said, people who don't have a very highly qualified people necessarily, etc., etc. These things, as well as processes, right? The technologies that you're using are limited to, say, MS Excel, etc. These are good definitions of a SME. I just have one small thing to add there. I think one thing that also defines SME is the kind of businesses that they get into. I'm not defining that too much because that's my next question. So my next question and I'll start with Pranav because I think this is your forte. What categories of products do these SMEs sell overseas? And more importantly, what kind of teams do they have?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Shayak. See, MSMEs are really entrepreneurs, and on Amazon.in, they sell millions of products across a wide range of categories. So you could sell art and decor, you could sell food, nutrition, apparel, consumer electronics, and much more to customers in India. And since Amazon has marketplaces in 180 countries, so in all of those countries, I'll just use an example to actually illustrate. So, for example, there's a seller that we work with called Aeiou, and they are into fashion jewelry. They are building a brand. They are using it to go global and drive success. And this is sort of one example where it's a made in India product growing 50% year over year, and creating a big business with customers in India and US. Another great example is Vadam Teas, and it's a digital first tea brand that's out of India, and they've been able to service customers from India and global markets. And in fact, they actually made their way to Oprah Winfrey's list of favorites. So these are some examples. And in terms of the kinds of teams they have, they typically focus on operational aspects of the business, and don't and need support on marketing and strategy and a bunch of other areas. And therefore, like Rajendran was calling out, that they are really trying to make things work in a very frugal way. And therefore, as we look at the kind of products or supporting MSMEs, we really try to help them bridge gap in other areas, and create programs such as global selling, which enable them to easily sell globally. That's one example. So 70,000 Indian exporters are currently selling worldwide through Amazon websites through this program. and over 800 Indian MSMEs are surpassing 1 crore worth of sales in 2019. And overall, this program has cumulatively crossed $2 billion in cumulative exports. So those are just some stats I'm giving to sort of say how many people are leveraging and how they are growing
That's
a wide range of categories.
Pranav, just building on what you said, maybe before I move on to Rajendran, just a quick question to you. You've also opened up Amazon Global Selling to 15 markets recently with Startup India. Would you care to expand on that? Maybe just a quick 30-second primer on that as to what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I think that's a great and very important partnership, and we always look for partners who can help us reach the right kind of MSMEs who need the support and who are keen and motivated. So motivated is the keyword over here, because if somebody is motivated as an entrepreneur to grow their business in a certain way, then we can always support them through a structured mechanism and through the presence in other markets in order to make it simple for them. So the partnership with Digital India is sort of a large step in that direction.
Okay.
And we look forward to using it to enable a lot more MSMEs to
Rajendran, coming to you from the same question, but a little different point of view. We have heard from Pranav about how physical goods are being placed on the global map, and Amazon's doing a great job there. Especially the recent report says that Amazon's going to spend about $2 billion, and the targets to get to about $10 billion in global exports. And I think the last the CY 2020 is where you've crossed $1 billion in annual GMV. So these are great numbers, right? It shows progress, because there was a time 4 years ago when I came back to India to help Indian SMEs go global. The whole question was Indian SMEs can't sell global, or they don't have the potential to sell global. How about the digital products? This has never been in question, right? Indian SMEs have been known to sell digital products global, but the outsourcing market, especially during COVID, took a beating. What's happening there?
So, is this for me? Oh, okay.
Yes, it is for
So,
you.
yeah. So, it has taken a while for India to realize that it can actually build products rather than just do outsourced services to the world. And historically, we have not had a great name with respect to quality of the product, with respect to a world-class user experience or interface, and with respect to locally relevant customer support. So I think in these three aspects, we have really made a lot of progress in recent times, but there is a long way still to cover. I'll repeat, the world-class user experience that we can offer in our product, quality, technology is amazing, but it suffers when it comes to scaling a product or removing all the, deburring the product, so to speak, the digital experience, and locally relevant customer support. So if we can really find ways to work around the conventional Indian, this is how we are, kind of fatalistic destiny problems that we have had in the past, I think it's a good time. Because today, more than ever, the West is taking a beating really when it comes to policy, governance, when it comes to security, data privacy. We saw what happened with WhatsApp, what is continuing to happen with WhatsApp. And the market, particularly in Europe, is very sensitive with GDPR, and they are paranoid. They are bordering on paranoid. I think India is poised in that extent with respect to the way its democracy is handled, the way it is really postmodern in its approach to data sovereignty. I think that there are many good things working out for India, and it is a game that it is for us to lose this game. Things are doing.
I agree. I mean, one of the things about putting SME products, I'm kind of taking a lot of startups, or especially Anuj, I'll get to you. Just give me a sec. So taking the startups also into this equation, one of the things I feel very strongly is, given that there's been a bit of a sensitivity about the Chinese products, especially in the Western market, and when it comes to the digital products. Europe starting to become a lot more sensitive when it comes to data, etc. This is a golden opportunity for a market like India with a huge amount of engineers, a large number of startups with good technology products. And there are enablers now coming up in the market in the form of accelerators, incubators, especially state-run ones, like in
Correct.
Hyderabad, one of the biggest ones, T-Hub. And every city has them. Like IMEA itself is a brilliant platform to help startups do that.
And
Anuj, for you.
when you actually look at Indians developing products for India, you're already taking care of low bandwidth problems, last
Exactly.
mile connectivity problems, low quality, low cost, low powered Android cell phone as the base. If we can do that, connecting the last billion in the world, be it Africa, be it South America, already becomes a solved problem because we have done that dog fooding right here.
So, summarizing what you said, and Anuj, a question to you is, so the Indian SME entrepreneurs, especially the ones who are building these digital products, need to focus on the right target audience and need to have the right customer support in place to do that. And yes, there are enablers that will help them. Anuj, what do you have to add to this?
I think that's a very, very interesting area because if you look at it, actually, we've been thinking of SMBs as largely people who are making products which are physical products. I think today what is happening is that all of us, the amount of time we are spending on our mobile devices. So a lot of products which are consumed are actually not physical products. And I think across media, you switch on a cricket match, bulk of the advertisers there today are people who are making apps and driving consumption through apps. It's across everywhere, it's happening that way. And I feel that that economy is a lot of digital products from India are going and will grow much faster globally. Because if you look at it today for Google Play, India is the largest market. Most number of apps get downloaded out of India more than any other market out there, given the number of people we have, Android consumption, etc. And I think there are many sectors like vernacular content, sectors like short format video, gaming. I think a lot of these sectors which are seeing a lot of new kind of entrepreneurs and SMEs emerge. And the important part there is that there the marketplace is very open because you're not a physical product. If you've made a great game, the whole world is your market. And if you look at the rise of the Chinese SME audiences, which are SME population, which happened a few years ago, it was one obviously was around products. But I think the other part which largely drove is how well they leverage technologies like mobile and app technology. Like today, some of the leading apps across categories ended up being Chinese apps, which we even didn't know as Indians that they were Chinese apps. So I think that is where the growth potential is. And I think today there are so many categories where innovation is happening there. Categories like gaming, etc. Obviously, one which is really make in India, but make it for the world. And while there would be others which are make in India and make for India because the population in India, which is vernacular, etc., might be able to appreciate it. So I think there is humongous amount of potential which is happening and a lot of entrepreneurs which are coming in, which is what we are seeing as our business because our business is largely working with the app community. So at one end, the app-driven businesses could be like an Amazon, but in many cases, there could be startups which are building those apps and wanting to reach out to the world and leveraging our platform to do that.
Agreed, Anuj. And it's a very interesting conversation for me personally because I lie at the center of both these worlds. We are helping the physical sellers sell globally through Amazon and others. And at the same time, we're building a product ourselves, which we are trying to globalize. So it's a good learning. Coming to the next question, and this is a very, very interesting question, goes to anybody who wants to answer. What kind of challenges do you see these small businesses face? Part one. Part two is, how are they innovating? Right? Give me some case studies. And that innovation could be through ecosystem, could be through partnerships, could be through technology, could be through anything. So challenges and innovations that they're doing. Okay. And Anuj, maybe you want to go first, Pranav second, and Rajendran third. Please take it forward.
Actually, Shayak, I couldn't hear you too well, so I would let the others take it first.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Pranav, maybe you'll take it first.
Sure, I can go ahead. So see, in terms of challenges as far as e-commerce is concerned, so some of the common challenges that we've seen primarily are related to access to new customers. Like I'm running a business, how do I reach out to my customer, right? Most importantly, how do I reach out to the customer beyond my catchment area? I may be running an offline store, I have a certain catchment area, but how do I go beyond that? And then when you think of going beyond it, then it's sort of layered, right? You would basically say, hey, how do I get to my city? Then how do I get to my state? How do I reach everybody in India? Then how do I go global? So those are literally the stages in which they really look at getting that kind of support. The other broad thing that I see is related to digital infrastructure and skilling of employees. Because the world is increasingly going digital, everything is moving towards automation, and to navigate in that world, it is a very important challenge for them. And some part of that challenge is vernacular, but even outside of vernacular, there is a large enough challenge. And I'll just take one or two examples. You spoke about case studies, so I just use that to illustrate how entrepreneurs, especially the savvy ones, figure their way around it. So, for example, there is this seller called SKD Leather. They are a part of a global selling program. Now, their core business is manufacturing leather and metal watch straps for major manufacturers. Now, when lockdown happened, they actually discovered that their orders were actually getting cancelled and they were operating for weeks without no new orders or revenue. And then the founder, Mr. Singhi, he chose to shift and create products that solve the needs of customers in context of pandemic. So they started thinking about creating face masks and so on. And that not only gave them a very different revenue stream, which is still growing, it also enabled them to recover from that business. Another seller, which is an apparel company called Livizo, they focused on actually building visibility of their brand through one of our programs called Launchpad during this time frame. And they felt that since this is a great time when everybody else is lying low, let me actually be more aggressive and build that. And they achieved their first 1 crore sale during the recent Diwali festive season. And this success has now enabled them to grow their team by 20 members. And these are two examples of how basically entrepreneurs overcome some of these challenges. But once you understand how to operate or navigate, you can figure out how to make your business grow.
Anuj, for your reference, a question that Pranav was answering is the kind of challenges that these SMEs are facing and how are they innovating to solve those challenges. If you have some interesting examples, like Pranav just gave us two examples of Mr. Singhi and forgetting the other name, how they've innovated through the Amazon Launchpad program as well as Amazon Global Selling program, how they've changed the category of goods. It could be that, it could be an ecosystem enabler coming in and doing that for them. I don't know. So do you have any insights to share there?
Yeah. So I think the single biggest change which I have seen happening in our times obviously has been the impact of COVID, which has happened in the last probably few months. And I think that has actually, a lot of SMEs have transformed their business with that. So it started with obviously payments, which is accepting payments and WhatsApp-based ordering kind of a thing, which is largely individual entrepreneurs who started doing it without even relying on any third-party platforms. Your neighborhood shop was doing it, picking up orders from this thing and sending you links of ATM or Google Pay to make those payments. So I think that is a first step of digitization, which they embraced with the pandemic situation. I think the other area where I've seen a lot of work happening today is around the entire online to offline piece, because because people obviously, while the world was largely moving to e-commerce based transactions even pre-pandemic, I think the speed at which that change has happened has been dramatic in the last 10 months. And I think that's where the enterprises, what we are seeing is that how they are leveraging online, like their shops or their warehousing can still be offline, which is what the physical products need to be. But how they're using online tools to get that going, I think that's the online to offline part is a very, very important enabler. And even for us, we work with a lot of clients where we are building technologies where they can actually experience an entire mall on their phone, shop for products, and tie up with logistic partners so that through an app experience, get the products delivered from actual physical shops. Because while they're also listing on an Amazon, many of them also want to have their parallel shop fronts, because they believe that they have a catchment area, they have a CRM of audiences who they are loyal to them. And
so more like
obviously
Bopis, sorry, I interrupted. Yeah. More like Bopis, right?
Yeah. Correct. So it's around that, and I think that's the area where our entire online to offline platform, which what we are working with retail, with communication tied down, because to what historically it's seen was that most SMEs were largely focusing that even if they had like a base of 500 customers, their only way to reach out those customers was largely through SMS or maybe through WhatsApp. So what we've built out is that we've got our Vizuri platform through which we have actually integrated that they can have communication across multiple channels. So the same customer is available on WhatsApp, he's also available on email or available on Facebook. And how do we optimize the customer journey so that they can leverage digital technologies without them needing to know that? Like, because for a particular user, a WhatsApp based engagement might be better versus for somebody else, an email might be more impactful. So I think those are things which we have seen happening quite closely, and a lot of SME, especially in the last 10 months, changed dramatically to adapt to such things.
Okay.
Right.
Rajendran, maybe you can take it forward, because I think Zoho's been doing some very good stuff during the COVID period.
Yeah, one challenge, I completely agree with the points brought out by Anuj. Just extending on that, customer 360 view, something that we have been talking about for decades now, perhaps. Don't ask the same question to the same customer more than once. We continue to suffer from that problem. I'm transferring you to another department, and that department will start asking you from the first question, can I have your name? Can I have your phone number, please? They will ask. So the customer 360 view is needed. And beyond that, some kind of insights need to be generated. I need to be half a step ahead of my customer when dealing with a customer problem. And for that insight, we need to, it's no longer a fad. We need to really bake in artificially intelligent software, some kind of machine learning. And for that, we need humongous amounts of data. And that's where lies the rub. Because customers are not interested in giving you data. Every website now has to show a pop-up saying, I am a cookie. Do you really want to manage my cookie? And so on. In just 2-3 years, what used to be almost promiscuous sharing of data has become the other extreme. People are paranoid. People are using DuckDuckGo instead of Google. People are using Brave browser and instead of Chrome. There are so many obstacles today to collecting even legitimate, meaningful data. So the challenge that the customer faces is they can't invest on costly products that will run up AI for them. They can't individually subscribe to AI wrappers. So they are looking for software that will actually share meaningfully from the customer service department to the technical support department to the project management department, something that shares instead of having data in silos. If I am receiving a mail from a customer and I can't have that mail in Outlook and my customer service happening in Zendesk, because I need to then draw a pipe. Has the customer already made a call, a customer support call? So these are problems that Zoho is actually looking at solving by providing a unified platform, 52 different products that talk meaningfully with each other. And also we are all providing extensions. So there are third-party services that you might already be invested in. So we provide extensions and connectivity to that. But I think that is the challenge that the customer today is facing, particularly the SMB customer, the small company owner, because they don't want to miss the bus. Today, AI is a game changer. If I can predict your activity, I can show you a meaningful advertisement, I can convert better, I can save a lot of money, and I can actually get ahead of my competition. So,
okay, so maybe wrapping this up, by the way, I am a power user of Zoho One, so I absolutely get what you're talking about. We built so much on Zoho, unbelievable. Some other day, some other topic. But I'd like to think of this in terms of a framework that I call the Aeiou framework. So in terms of the problems that an SME faces, especially when going global, the kind of thought processes that they go through, I think of it in terms of Aeiou. How I think is, A stands for access to the different markets. Now, access, there are gatekeepers to that access. It could be an Amazon, it could be a government, it could be a shipping partner, but you have an access gatekeeper. Then you have E. E stands for an ecosystem. I remember Rajendran coming and saying this, where you need to think about a local customer service. It could even be a local shipping partner, local warehousing partner for a physical good. It could be a local app store ecosystem in terms of a digital good. So you need an ecosystem there. Third, in terms of what Rajendran said, is I for intelligence. Artificial intelligence has to be baked into the product that understands a customer and takes decisions or guides a customer or prompts a customer to take. It comes from the nudge theory. I think we are all subscribers to the nudge theory. I see what Zoho does, I see what Amazon does, and I'm absolutely sure Affle does the same. So it's essentially where AI is baked into the product. And O stands for operations, where something like what Zoho does or what Affle was talking about, what Anuj was talking about, Affle does, bringing the entire thing into one operational suite. So you bring your entire operations together and you get a full visibility over it, something like a control tower. And U stands for uniformity across all the channels. AEIOU, access, ecosystem, intelligence, operations, and uniformity. If you can do this, then you can go global and you'll be successful at it. It's not that difficult actually, with the likes of Affle, with the likes of Amazon, and with the likes of Zoho enabling you. It's actually a lot more easier to do. And yes, Rajendran, it was me who presented at the Zoho event.
Okay.
The next question that I'm going to pose to all of you is um, data and digital, right? We've already started talking about it in the last question. Let's dig a little deeper. How is data and digital important to help SMEs to succeed? But more importantly, are SMEs really implementing these data and digital solutions? And how can we, as system enablers or as ecosystem players, help them to do that? And this time around, Rajendran, can you please go first? And Anuj second and Pranav third, please.
So, tracking everything that's happening, Anuj talked about the customer journey. So tracking every touch point and understanding how the customer has reacted, how much time, how the funnel works, everything is data. Something that can probably be used in a tangential manner, in an unexpected tangential manner. That's the thing about ML algorithms. You don't really know what is going to evolve out of the genetic algorithm and throw up as an insight. So save everything. In fact, we are actually trying to save every keystroke in some of our applications. But at the same time, not share it with anybody else. Share it only on a need to know basis. Share it with a double opt-in from the customer's customer. That is also becoming very important, which is why today the trend in AI is how to bring up meaningful insights with sparse data. I don't have much information. That is what Jeff Bezos of Amazon keeps saying. If you have 70% of the information you really need for a decision, already you're good to go. Take a leap of faith. Go ahead, make that jump. So we want to develop algorithms that will work on sparse data and learn on the go. That's the recent trend today. And when it comes to acquiring data, it's very easy for us to become, there used to be a time when you could post using one text box and say submit, and it will post to Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, Twitter, and so on. Today, that has become a big loophole after Cambridge Analytica. It's become a loophole. All these companies, including Facebook and Twitter, have blocked that application. Because it's okay to have a wall. As long as you have a wall that nobody can go through, you're safe. But when you have a locked door, people are going to keep picking the lock. So that is the thing about having integrations outside your ecosystem. Okay, so it is important for us to have, if you are going to be giving a lot of importance to data that you're collecting, you need to also ensure that nobody, not even your own employees, have access to the data that you've collected. Even the intelligent agent that works on the data cannot share insights that it has generated based on one company's data with another company.
Okay.
So this is the interesting challenges that we have in an AI team.
So maybe moving to Anuj, can we take what Rajendran said and take it a step further and discuss about how to use this data and intelligence to enable SMEs? Let's talk about it from the digital frontier, because I think that's where your forte is. How do we help them to do better?
Yeah, so I'll help answer that and also share examples of something which we're doing and also what I have seen some other companies doing, which I found quite useful. I think the important thing for the SME audience is simplifying innovation and technology. Because I think what you need to look at it is that these are people who who know their business better than anybody. And they are reading all of these trends of big data. This can happen, this user can happen. And I think many of us and many other companies, I think while we have passion for our products, we end up confusing the SME because he doesn't obviously want to know the in depth of our products. He wants to know how is it going to help solve his problem. And I think that simplification of that message is very important. And I'll give you an example from our life. So actually, what we started seeing was that today in India, there were so many companies which were building apps, which was the way in which they were building digital products. And they wanted more consumers to download or use those apps, and not just people, just random numbers, but people who are actually valuable, who will go and buy from them. Now, when we started building out our advertising platform, our option was that one, we go in and say that, you know what, we advertise your products on these sites. We have this data, so we can predict that this user is going to likely to use e-commerce versus social commerce. Finally, what we realized was that nobody really wanted to pay for that. What the enterprise was looking for, that if I'm making a game, how is it that you can get me people who are likely to consume my game? So we built out our entire business model on what we call cost per converted user. So what we are doing is we are simplifying. You want gamers, we will give you gamers. And the data and the inventory are the raw material which I use to deliver a conversion to you. So to an SME, it is a conversion, and this is the language he understands. If I was to go him and talk to him about my AI engine, while I have a lot of pride in that, I know that I can confuse him because that's not the way he understands our business. So I think that is where I see that the innovation on technology and how you sell it, I think will make it easier on adoption. And the same things I see, one is obviously an example which is closed, which is obviously related to our company and how we are doing it. But even when I look around, I think one of the recent innovations which impressed me a lot is something which Paytm has done. So today, a lot of sellers who are retailers who are selling who've got Paytm kiosks, they actually get a confirmation on voice around that the transaction has been completed.
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm not trying to create a plug. I just, as a consumer, I saw it in a few shops and I was like, this is real innovation. Because the guy can have that confirmation coming in out there on voice. He knows that the transaction has happened. Otherwise, somebody's showing him some. And I'm sure there are enough people fibbing this that show them a screenshot and the transaction didn't happen. So I think clearly making innovation relatable and simplified is the way which is most important. These enterprises understand the language of growing their business. And we need to talk in that language to make our products adapted and grow with them.
So, Pranav, taking this point that Anuj made about the innovations, etc., let's move a little bit towards the physical products and how do we help SMEs to do that globally? And how do you build in data and intelligence? Because Amazon's doing possibly the best in the world when it comes to AI, data intelligence, etc., giving that feedback back to the customers or helping them through the different programs that you have. And one request here is please keep it short because we are running out of time. I'm trying to put in 2 more questions before we get done. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So I will focus more on the digital part of it. And as I basically mentioned that the reach is one of the things that MSMEs really care about. And one of the biggest opportunities in terms of digital transformation is the ability that digital can give to a business to actually break those geographical barriers. And I'll give you a simple example. I think Anuj had touched upon simplicity of the offering. At the end of the day, the MSME is looking to grow their business, and that's a very important statement. So one of the things, for example, that we do in India is when we saw a lot of MSMEs coming in and starting to sell, the first question that they had was related to courier services. Like, hey, as my business grows, as I get more orders, how will I keep going to the courier person and keep giving them packets? And that's just so cumbersome. How do I do that? Therefore, we created a solution called EasyShip. And what the solution does, whenever an MSME receives an order, they can basically open their mobile app. They can click a button to schedule a pickup. Now they can say pick up in the morning, afternoon, evening, based on when they are available in their location. And an Amazon associate will, around that time, come and pick up that package from your premises. And then, irrespective of where it needs to be delivered, the technology in the logistics system will take care of getting it across multiple cities to the end consumer. Now, what that does, it basically takes the primary worry that MSME may have out of the equation and then gets them to focus on what their strength is, which is building great products. And that combination enables them to scale forward. So I'm just using that as one example to sort of illustrate how digitization will really unlock MSMEs. And then similar examples apply to enabling MSMEs to go global and then a higher share of made in India products getting distributed both nationally and globally. You've asked me to keep it short, so I'll just
I'll quickly summarize this in 30 seconds. So, from my own experience, connecting all the dots together in one channel, like all the places where you're selling, all the places where you're shipping, all the places where you're storing, all the places where you're marketing, this really helps. And today, I think everybody discussion, whether it's Affle, they're doing that in terms of marketing. Amazon obviously does it across multiple spaces. Zoho does it across multiple spaces. Even at Eunimart, we have the complete omni-channel experience where we enable SMEs to sell retail, e-commerce, you name it, right? Across all of the different layers to manage your entire chain, marketing, everything from one place. Coming to the next question, which I see on the has come from a particular viewer. They're talking about certain products that China produces, or the cost of production there is lower, the manufacturing is faster, and it's more global in nature. So China obviously has stolen the lead. It's definitely even ahead of the US when it comes to going global, both in terms of digital and in terms of physical goods. How exactly can India match up? And I'll get the ball rolling by putting one small framework here in terms of thinking about revenues, intelligence, cost, and efficiency. I'm a Bengali. I love rice, so I call it the rice model: revenue, intelligence, cost, and efficiency. So think about this. I think this helps, especially when you're trying to build global products. Yes, I think I'll ask Pranav you to go first.
I think one of the things that we have observed is that if there's a great product, there's a market for it. And as an entrepreneur, you need to find out where that market is, what that market is. So at least from on this journey of digitizing MSME, what we see is that just getting them to take that first step, right? When we talk to this cohort, we see that a lot of folks don't even think that they can actually sell globally. The moment they start thinking that way, all the steps towards that path are over there. And I'll take an example of one of our global sellers from Jaipur, who has this beautiful block printed Jaipuri bed sheets that they were selling over here. And when our team saw those products, we felt that they would do really, really well in US. So we advised them to sign up for a global selling program. Now, interestingly, when they started selling it in US, they were very surprised to see the volume of orders that they were getting. And that's where the intelligence comes in. So when the teams actually started talking to those customers, it turned out that in US, customers were using those printed sheets as tapestries. They were using it as beachwear, and they really loved the bright, vibrant colors. And the moment that insight was made available to this entrepreneur, he actually created a whole new range of products on beachwear, on tapestries, which would be different sizes, different materials, which would really accelerate that business. So I'm just using that example. Yeah, go on.
Was Linenwala? Because I remember reading this story sometime back. I think it was Linenwala, right? Yeah, a brilliant case study. Please, Pranav, continue.
Yeah, so I was just using that as an example to say that one of the reasons why we keep talking about the China-India equation is maybe because they took some steps earlier. But when I talk to these entrepreneurs, when I look at the products made in India, all I see is that they need to overcome their inertia, and two, they just need to be connected, like you said, connecting the dots. So you connect the products they are building with these dots, and whether it is karigars, artisans. So we have actually specific programs for each of these cohorts because we realize that the first step that they need to take is very different. So for artisans, we go through a lot of government agencies and work with clusters. For women entrepreneurs and NGOs, we have a different program called Selenium.
So Pranav, I would like to just move on to Rajendran because we just have 5 minutes left. Actually, 4 minutes left now. So Zoho is one of the great Indian products that's actually done massively well outside of India. And it's also because you took a step towards doing that actively. The way Amazon's helping, I think, close to 70,000 merchants now go global and do a lot of awesome things outside of India. How is it doable for the SMEs, and what did Zoho do that other SMEs could emulate?
What does Zoho do that?
That other SMEs could follow, could emulate,
Oh, okay. So we have always kept our costs low. We have never gone for external infusion of money. And that is something we constantly recommend for anybody wanting to strike out on their own. We have always felt that there is a lot of talent available, even outside the cities. So go to the rural environments. Do not be English ke moh mein mat ja. There is a lot of non-English speaking amazing talent out there waiting to be tapped. And that is a second thing that I would like to stress. Also, if you talk about differentiating yourself from China, I think as a product as well as service provider, India has that special demography that can actually be global. That's something we can really hit a sixer with. Okay. And one last thing I would like to stress upon is go beyond Google. AdWords and advertising, it can take you to a level and beyond which it's actually blood-sucking expenditure. Seriously. And you should actually look at maintaining a blog, perhaps, running a special interest group on Facebook or any of these other platforms, content marketing. If you can really attract people, if you like our friend Pranav talked about that printing in fabric, if you can become the authority on that and create an influencer group around it, automatically you become the magnet and word of mouth will automatically come to you.
Okay. So, Anuj, before I go to you, I would like to maybe ask you to, since it's the last answer we'll get today, in answering this question about how Indian sellers could go global, how could we compete against the likes of the Chinese or the American or the German sellers who are out there who are doing really well? Break it in terms of regulatory challenges, systematic, and as well as the ecosystem and merchant challenges that are out there. And you've done this, so maybe you'd be able to give us some insights on this.
So I think you talked earlier about also how the Chinese SME community really drove that forward. And I think largely what led to, and I'm not suggesting that that should be the case, but I think the advantage which the Chinese ecosystem had was that they had a captive market within China, which was through obviously legislative framework that they didn't allow some of the foreign competitors. That's a very different way, and I don't feel that that's in today's environment. That's not the way in an open world. That's not the way to grow. But I think if we get too enamored by the speed at which China grew, I think we will always have that is the only way, because then you close out the domestic market. And then you pretty much, and even in India having a billion plus population, that's a large enough market for any and everybody. And if there is no foreign competitor, then clearly Indian entrepreneurs will come in, and which is happening. But I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I think what the role of regulatory environment is to make it easier for local entrepreneurs. So easy access to capital in early days, and also from a point of view of public markets, because across many of these countries, what you see is that companies in their early stages have gone public. India usually is not that. India companies need to mature a lot more before they can access public capital. I think that is a part which also needs to change, because clearly the mindset of closing the economy down is not going to take us forward. The opening the economy, allowing foreign competition, working with companies which might have foreign origins but have a deep India interest, companies like say an Amazon, like while the company's origin may be foreign, but it has a deep India interest and they are working in the interest of the Indian entrepreneurs. So I think clearly identifying that and creating a framework where companies can, like today, if you see that there is certain sectors of the economy where fundraising has become comparatively easier. Like till a few years ago, you didn't have these millions of dollars flowing in Indian startups, which they are right now. But that's much more in the digital economy versus the physical product economy. And I think while obviously the digital economy is easier to understand, it's easier to scale, I think the physical product economy can leverage digital and make their products go to scale. So by leveraging marketplaces and advertising, both of which are enablers for scaling Indian products outside. So I think doing some of those things, I think, are very, very important. And I think those are the areas where regulatory environment should be focused in. Locking down the economy or competition, I think that model, if we try and emulate, then it's not really the way forward in today's era. While I know that many countries in the world are going that way, but I'm personally not a subscriber to it.
Yeah, I think local is the way forward. You build for local, but you build for global, but you start selling in local, and then you grow it out. And like you said about the access parameters, etc. So this has been a great conversation, everyone, and I think we've learned a lot from it about how Indian SMEs, both on the digital side as well as on the physical side, can go global. There are the likes of Affle, there are the likes of Amazon, Zoho, and even us at Eunimart. We are helping a lot of SMEs go global, both on the physical as well as on the digital side. All of us. So this has been good learning for, I think, the people who viewed it. So a vote of thanks to every one of you for taking the time and attending. And I think, yes, we are ready to end this session.
Thank you, dear panelists, for joining us today and sharing some key insights. I would also like to thank our partners, Reverie Language Technologies, Philose, CrediWatch, InShots, WiseApe, Financial Express, and B Community. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back after a short 10 minutes.